This is Driving Solutions, exclusively on CBTNews.com.
Hey everyone, I'm Jim Fitzpatrick. Welcome back to CBT News. According to Cars Commerce's recent 2024 automotive trends study, used car inventory will likely stay sparse and expensive this year. But why? And how should dealers be adapting? On today's edition of Driving Solutions, we dive deeper into the changing used car market with Brian Kramer, who's the Executive Vice President and General Manager of AccuTrade at Cars Commerce, and David Simches, who is the Used Car Director at Crown Automotive Group. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me today. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule. Brian, the first question that I have is for you. From your side, what is changing in the used car market that we see?
So quite a few things are changing. The average cost of sale is going up, and it's gone up $10,000 to $15,000 over the last 18 months.
Wow.
So with that, interest rates have gone up. So your floor plan interest is obviously much more. There's a lot more dynamics than we've faced in the past, along with electric vehicle value volatility. So there's a lot of moving pieces. The final thing is sourcing vehicles from auctions is becoming more difficult and more challenging. Mm-hmm. So everybody's kind of focusing on acquiring more vehicles from consumers.
Yeah. Is there going to be a shortage this year?
Yes. Well, there's going to be a kind of a lopsided shortage. The dealers that are not putting in processes to acquire cars from consumers are going to feel the brunt of it more. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of dealers. I would say David Simches is a perfect example of Crown Automotive Group that's figured out how to acquire cars off the service drive and find other channels instead of just relying on auctions. So the proactive dealers, I think, are going to get their unfair share, and the ones that don't have a consumer sourcing model are going to be at a disadvantage.
Yeah, for sure. David, what are you hearing from customers when it comes to what they're looking for?
Well, they're looking to know two things. They'd love to know what they're paying for the car they're buying and what they're getting for the car they're trading. And I see consumers bounce around to, 3, 4, 5, what's my car worth sites. And each site is reasonably credible, mm-hmm. right? Whether it's a CarMax site, AutoNation site, or, certainly something with credibility, but they all give them a different value. So they're really looking for someone that can give them a straightforward value and help them understand what all of the terms and reasons for adds or deducts on their car are, and just be very transparent and upfront with it.
Yeah.
And when you're dealing with consumers in your service drive, when you're dealing with consumers that are in their living room trying to sell their car, there is no traditional, start kind of conservative and figure out what we have to do.
Yeah.
You give them a real number and a professional presentation, and they sell you their car.
Yeah, that's the key, right? Make it as easy as possible and try to hit that car right on the number. Brian, what can dealers do to get ahead of or work through this shortage?
Well, I think the number one focus needs to be on transparency and have that as the overarching goal for every strategy, whether it be sight unseen appraisals, whether it be service drive acquisition, remote appraisals, or just buying cars from consumers off the street. Mm-hmm. I think that no matter what, being transparent, having the least amount of steps, the least amount of clicks, and a frictionless process is the key to any good strategy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. David, today in being in retail automotive, it's all about aligning your dealership with the best technologies. And I know that you're an AccuTrade dealer and a user. As an AccuTrade user, is this product worth it to you?
Hands down. We've been a very active AccuTrade user since 2019. And there's been quite a few different market conditions throughout that time period. And it's been the most consistent and true. I kind of have a funny saying to slow consumers down a little bit, when they're pushing you. I remind them that buying or selling a car isn't like picking up a gallon of milk at the convenience store, right? So you really do want to be transparent and quick, but you have to respect the transaction. So I see a lot of appraisal tools popping up that say they're going to give someone a number in 2 minutes, with one click. Well, okay, you're going to give them a number, but it's going to be far from accurate. and to spend a little bit of time, like a few minutes,
Yeah.
to get there is fine. You just can't, push the speed too much, but you have to be on top of it and quick.
Yeah, there's no question about it, and consumers want that. But to your point, they'd rather have a number that they feel better about, right, than something that's just fast, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
oh yeah.
For sure. Brian, how do you see the appraisal role changing as we move forward?
So I think that a lot of dealers that I talk to, dealership managers, used car managers, are really scared of that question and the ambiguity of it with AI and all these sorts of things. What I see, and I see it, in David's stores, and I see it in the top performing stores around the country, is almost like a superpower in enabling used car managers to go from doing all the work to verifying all the work, and empowering and enabling a lot more dealership associates to help out to double, triple, quadruple the amount of appraisals. And what it does is it allows the used car manager to do the things that are most important. Talking to customers face to face in the showroom, greeting them, managing their people, recruiting, developing, promoting, retaining talent. And it's tough to do those things. We put an inordinate amount of responsibility on used car managers.
Yeah.
And the expectations of what they're supposed to do every day is it's daunting. So to be able to alleviate that so that they can do what they do so well more accurately, I think that's the future.
Yeah. David, you're kind of where the rubber meets the road. How do you see the appraisal role changing? Are the appraisers going to be out of a job?
No, they're not going to be out of a job. I agree with Brian, that empowering of your salespeople to collect the data, to take the pictures, to put a tire meter in the tire depth and read the tire depth, that takes training.
Yeah.
Right. So when you're the used car manager and a salesman is giving you bad data, it takes training. Our service drive concierges gather the data in the service lane and then pipe it up into a central appraisal desk.
Mm-hmm.
And again, training, right? If they're not piping in the proper information, you can be very far off on your appraisal.
Yeah.
And on both sides, it's either very high or very low, and they're both negative, right?
That's right. Yeah. You either stepped up too much on the trade or you lost the deal altogether, right?
Yep. And you need to know when it's time to be a little bit more aggressive. We have some Stellantis stores. They suffered last few months with some heavy inventory, right? When do we have to put the pedal down and go a little heavier? When we back it off, you still need a pro behind it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. But that pro has now got technology like AccuTrade at their fingertips, which is really going to make them much more accurate and powerful, right? On the the call.
We have a central appraisal desk, and one appraiser does about 1,500 service drive appraisals a month.
1,500?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh my God. That's incredible.
And we've been working on this for a few years now at Crown. Ron Griffin is our central, our director of our service drive appraisal process. And they have really drilled down, done a lot of training on the order of pictures and what they want to look at. And that consistency of the data coming into the central appraiser. I mean, I think it's easier than looking at a condition report from an auction.
Yeah.
What he's getting served to him.
Yeah.
And we do pretty well with those appraisals.
Wow.
With those cars that we acquire.
I would imagine. Oh my God. So is it safe to say that every customer paid labor RO that comes in is leaving with an appraisal?
We have some parameters around that, Jim. We don't do an appraisal on a car that was bought within the last year.
Okay.
So, right. So if somebody buys a car and then they have a item that they're going to add to it and they come back in 2 months later, we're not going to number the car.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So we kind of have some parameters around that. So no, not everyone. I mean that target vehicle that's 3 years old, right? So 2, 3, and 4-year-old car that's been owned for over a year, they're getting a number.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And they're as efficient as any dealer group I've seen in the nation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And where the rubber hits the road, they really do. They execute.
Brian, that is fantastic. Those are fantastic numbers. There's no question. You must be buying a ton of vehicles, David, off of the service drive, which is very impressive. But so, Brian, talk to me about that. What have you seen that across the board? I know that you just said David's deal is very efficient, but dealers must be loving this program.
So they're not all operating as efficiently as David's stores, but we do have some amazing just progress year over year where we're seeing increases of 50, 60, 80% increase in volume of appraisals without having to, even when traffic's down, lead count might be down. So it's just making a more efficient use of their business. There's not a lot of advertising spend, if any, that's going into that. So it's all incremental business. But what we're seeing is that the cars that all the dealers are sourcing off the service drive, the grosses are higher. They sell in typically half the time. Yeah. And it's a lot more profitable all the way around.
Well, and those cars typically, correct me if I'm wrong, but those customers are going to find their way into the showroom with a check in their hand, theoretically, and to be buying another car. I mean, this is like a no-brainer.
85% of the time is what we see.
85% of the time? Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, we call, it's either an exchange or a direct buy. Mm-hmm. So if they turn into another vehicle, it's an exchange and direct buys. Direct buys really tend to be more, I've never broken it down, but I'm guessing they would be more cars that we wholesale. Because there are people that, they come into service and they get a bill that's going to be 4 times the value of their car.
Oh, they're totally open to an appraisal. Yeah.
Yeah, yes. Yeah. And then they just sell it to us. And listen, we want every car. We're happy to provide a service for our customers. Sure. Trade them out of a car like that and wholesale it. I mean, we pick up a little bit of margin. I mean, margin's margin, right? Helps pay for all the concierges and the central appraisal manager, right?
Sure. No question about it. And even on those cars that you're going to auction, that customer's still going to take that check of whatever it is, $1,000, $2,000, $5,000, and they're coming in to buy a newer used car, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that you wouldn't normally have had if in the event they're given that huge repair bill and they go, nah, that's okay, thanks, I'll be back to get that work done at a later date, and they're gone, right?
Absolutely. I got to go think about it. Sir, your car's not going to drive away from your driveway too many more times.
That's right.
Hey, let's go.
That's right. No, there's no question about it. So that's fantastic. Is this something that you advertise externally as well? To say, hey, we can appraise your vehicle in literally minutes and give you a check on the spot?
Not in our service drive. Our service drive is all internal.
Yeah, it sounds like you don't even need that.
Yeah. It's all internal.
Yeah.
That's one of the best kept secrets, Jim, is that once you do that, you really don't, you have enough business that you can.
I was going to say, you don't even need to advertise, right? Your advertisement is the service drive. Wow, that is fantastic. Those are very, very impressive numbers. Brian, talk to me about NADA. It's right around the corner, and we're going to be seeing you guys out there. You always make a huge presence, or I should say have a huge presence. Any big announcements, or what do you guys, you're always working on something?
Yes, so we are working on something new and exciting. I was actually just talking to David about this. So we're going to be previewing our new inventory intelligence platform, which is going to be, well, it's going to be extremely exciting, but we're going to show the future of inventory management as we see it, powered by intelligence, and what that can do for dealers to take, just like we're talking with Service Drive, but managing inventory even in a significantly simpler way.
Wow, that's fantastic. Dealers that are listening to us today, which there's a lot of you out there, you got to put this on your short list. It is something that you've got to see. Cars Commerce, to have 1,500 appraisals through you. Who doesn't want that? It's 1,500 appraisals through your service lane. I'm not saying that that's a guarantee at your store, but man, if David can do it, then at least that's something to aspire to. But certainly this is an avenue that you need to explore for sure. So they will be out at NADA. Dealers, put it on your short list. Check them out. You owe it to yourself and your dealership. And it's bottom line, because this to me, and I'm putting my dealer hat back on, this to me is like a no-brainer. So gentlemen, thank you so much. Brian Kramer and David Simchis. Thanks so much for joining me on the show. Very much appreciate it.
Thanks for having us on.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for watching Driving Solutions, exclusively on CBTNews.com.